Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Getting Unstuck with Misfits Unplugged. We are helping highly motivated hustlers achieve success and overcome career hurdles. We're two minority women with a combination of street smarts and corporate America, bringing simplified business concepts to everyone.
And if you are feeling stuck in your career and just don't have a plan or don't quite know how to pivot to the next step, or you haven't reached the milestones that you're really looking for in your career, then you want to stick around and listen to Misfits Unplugged, because we're going to be giving you little nuggets on the way to just kind of help you on your journey.
So I'm Izzy, and that's Brandy. Say hi, Brandy.
Hey, y'all.
All right, everyone. In this episode, we're going to be talking about knowing when you're burning out. We're going to give you some tools to overcome the burnout, specifically around finding work-life balance. When you're taking on too much, knowing when yes is strategic and no is best for your health. And then last but not least, we're going to continue on from the conversation on our last episode. If you're new here, we were talking a bit about pivoting in your career. And one of them is when the role isn't the right role for you and is leading to your burnout. So we're jumping on in today. Brandy, did you want to start with work-life balance? I feel like that is like...
I mean, listen, I think it's such a term right now. And if the pandemic didn't, accelerate that thing even more, I mean, forget about it. Just from a personal perspective, I tend to be the kind of person that not only takes on a lot, but I tend to want to keep going until it's done, keep going till it's done, keep going till it's done. And that speaks to my persistence. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. I have one of those brains that doesn't easily shut off, but I also see it in myself physically, just in terms of weight gain. I have an energy that I really want, which is all just holistically is all sort of encompassing. So when we talk about work-life balance, I think for me, it really got real when I had a kid. And, because when we're talking work-life balance, you really... And this is not to say that people who don't have children don't need to strike some balance as well. But I think having a kid definitely, it obviously changes your sleeping hours. It changes, like you take for granted the time that you have to yourself. So if you're like us, where, sometimes we have 12-hour, 13-hour days, and then we have toddlers that are, or mine, not so much toddler anymore, but is actually having conversation and wanting to engage and have fun. It doesn't understand that mommy is tired. So I have to put on that mommy hat for a few more hours and then wake up the next morning and do it all over again. It can become really, really, really frustrating. And it's not because I'm not doing what I love. I'm not in a place where I'm not doing what I love. I like the company that I work with. I've been there for a period of time. I have so much passion and excitement for what Isabel and I are creating here in terms of our, podcasting and the courses and stuff that we're, putting together for you guys, and all the free resources. In fact, smash that like button if you haven't already, and go through all of our other podcasts, listen and smash the like button too. Just FYI. But from a work-life balance perspective, I think it's really important that maybe we just identify, what burnout looks like and the bad effects that it can have on you, even when you're trying to do all of this career stuff. I mean, because that's what it turns into after a minute of burnout.
Brandy says she works from start to end. That means the end of a project, end of something that she's working on for the day. So we shared in that. I am still the type of person that doesn't like walking, or not so much actually now. Like she mentioned with the pandemic, I'm okay with walking away with things not being done. But earlier on in my career, and maybe until even before the pandemic, so we're talking about 2-3 years ago, I'm working long hours, 50, 60-hour weeks, usually the latest person in the office, everyone else is gone, working to make sure I have everything done that needs to be done for the day, or a project that I needed to work on. And, the 9 to 5, you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off. And that's probably not the best comment, but after that time, 5 o'clock is when you have the creative freedom, because people are already gone in the office, right? People come in earlier or work later to get certain things done, which isn't the right mentality at all. That is burnout. That is when you are unhappy. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to go to work. Really important. After child, after I had a baby and after COVID, that changed. So I do more in less time now because I'm strategic and more organized. I have no choice. I have to log off at 5 o'clock to go get my daughter. So, my 9 to 5 is organized, planned. I'm organizing myself throughout the week. And what does that look like? I'm putting blocks on my calendar saying, focus on emails, focus on project, focus on this, focus on that. And I'm holding myself accountable to doing those things or knowing when to move them off, to make sure that I'm leaving on time, and the time that I'm at work, I am being strategic with my time. So that has helped me beat, being overworked. I mean, I am overworked, and I'm still burning out, but is in a different capacity. I'm not working 60 hours a week. So that was something her and I shared early on in our career. So for me, work-life balance now is making sure I'm taking the right time, taking mental health days, taking PTO and knowing when to kind of unplug, de-stress, leave work at work. I have my work phone and I have a personal phone. I leave my work phone at home. If you have them combined and you have the finances, separate it. Because the thing, when I clicked my personal emails and work emails popped up, it impacted my mental state on a weekend and evening, and I didn't want that. So that was one step I took to improving my mental health outside of the workplace. But there's a lot of things I can talk through for work-life balance. So I'll keep going back and forth. But, making sure I have a good night's sleep, making sure, like you said, being burnt out and coming home and being with my daughter and being exhausted is not the parent I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So that's why change number one happened. It was like, I'm clocking off at 5 o'clock. If it's urgent, call me. But I'm not sitting at this computer until 6, 7, 8, 9, 10
with 11, screen balls.
There's times that I was like logging off, having dinner, logging back on and working until I went to sleep. That's not healthy. It was, okay, I was productive at work and I was doing all these things. And now I'm like this high executing person, but at what cost? My mental health. And like you mentioned, the COVID curves, I had the curves and now I have a COVID curves that go on top of life balance, curves. And it's not healthy. If you're not sleeping, you're not drinking water, you're overworking, you're not taking time off, and all of those things are going to lead to catastrophic event in your household. So make sure if any of that applies, that you take a step back. We're always talking about take a step back to reflect. Yeah. It doesn't just apply to your career, it applies to your balance in your life, whether it be work or just balance overall. So I said a lot, but Brandy, I'm gonna take a step back, and why don't we focus on, I guess, where was a point in your career that you felt super overwhelmed, lack of balance, and what steps did you take to find the balance that we want our listeners to find?
Well, so I'm queen of having, mad balls in the air, literally, and no pun intended. I'm used to, even when I first started my career, I was in the music industry. So I was working a 9 to 5 and going to the studio from 7 to 1 and waking up the next day and doing it all over again. When I started pivoting out of the music industry and I decided that I wanted to put more focus on my career, I was working a 9 to 5 and then going to night school to get an associate's and then getting a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree. And then after that, all through that, I was also moving up. So with that came responsibility. It came with managing people, managing projects. And so, I can probably think through, each one of those phases where, I was, burning at both ends of the stick. And I think that for me, particularly, it was a chance for me to get strategic, honestly, because then I'm starting to think about, okay, let me prioritize what of this do I really, really need to own and how much of this can I delegate? Even if I don't have at the time I had employees. So I obviously wanted to delegate what I could to them, which meant that I needed to burn a little bit more in training, right? But once you train and train and train again, that process is gone forever, right? Or until, somebody can't do it anymore. Or delegating out to other departments, because that's another way that I started getting really strategic. Like, should my department really be taking on, conversions? Like, I don't know that this is something that we need to do. Like, and then it's a powwow because because at that time, you really can't be efficient if you're not able to really, really prioritize, multiple things. So sometimes it was just a conversation with whoever my supervisor was or my boss or CEO at the time and saying, listen, I am at capacity. And I know that you have a lot of projects that you want to get done. I know that, there's a lot of work that needs to get done, but I'm telling you, and I'm the most efficient at it. This is a 2-person job, right? So it's, being able to express that you're at capacity and not just express it in frustration, but express it in numbers, quantify it so that you can actually see it. So when you go and express it to your boss or to whoever it's going to affect, they understand that it's not you trying to, work dump on people or whatever the case may be. So I would definitely say delegating was a big thing. Isabel said a lot about just getting organized. I think that that's hugely important. I'm a list person. I write everything down. Like my every day starts with the list, right? And I'm checking my list and checking it twice. And it's usually whatever I didn't get done the day before, whatever major projects that I'm working on at that particular time, and then prioritizing my day around that. So being organized is really important. And then the me time, Isabel's way better at that than I am. I need to do a better, honestly, I need to do a better job of taking the me days, because even when I take them, and maybe I'll do this in August, this is going to be my first time going on a month-long excursion with my family and dogs and and kid. And I'm going to be around a lot of family. I only see my family a couple times a year. So a lot of times, I'm smashing, 6 months worth of seeing people within one particular time frame. So that's another burnout. It's not really, really a vacation for me, but I think getting really disciplined about saying, yeah, you know what? I'm here for a month. I'm taking these 1 or 2 or 3 days for me. I don't want to see nobody. I don't call my phone. I might, tell Isabel, you take over Instagram for 2 days or something. I need to do a better job at that. I will say, so, I'm preaching to the choir with that. But I do understand that it's important, because at the times that I was experiencing burnout, I could feel it just in my body, but 2, your energy is off. You're just negative. And I already have the bitch face every day. Even when I'm not being a bitch, I already have don't talk to me face, even when I'm not even trying to, come off that way. It can't come off as negative energy. People can feel when you're, frustrated, people can feel when you're snapping. So I think taking a step back, really, really prioritizing, looking at what you really need to own, what you can actually delegate out or get help with, prioritizing yourself, organizing yourself, all kind of helps with burnout. And then, like Isabel says, unplug, hence Misfits Unplugged.
That is a real big part of who we are, though, because not only just getting unstuck in your career, there's so many prongs that come from what we're trying to accomplish. And one of them of being successful is understanding the balance in your life and how impactful that is to your career. So for me, work-life balance is the power of saying no and being strategic. If I ask the same question I asked you about, what do I think was the highest point or the peak of my stress or my lack of work-life balance, was me going into this leadership role. Here I am in the role, making the most money I've ever made. I was getting married at the same time. I was doing my master's degree, and I moved. So there was a lot of change and a lot of things going on. And what that impacted was just what you mentioned, was my health fell to the wayside. I had gains like 70, 80 pounds because I didn't have the structure and the routines that I wanted. I was going to the gym like every day at one point. I was eating great. I was living a really great, healthy lifestyle, and I lost 90 plus pounds. And you could only juggle so many balls until, you end up dropping some, right? For me, and it continues to be, and a struggle that my health falls to the wayside, trying to do better, day by day. I have goals list posted right on the other side of this computer that says, I want to lose this, I want to eat healthy, I want to use the screen time less, more family time. And I have it right in front of me and other goals so that we all in my household see what my goals are, because I'm in the book and I'm like, this is what I want to focus on for the year. And it stays consistently in front of me, because once it's out of sight, it's out of mind. I think that that's really important. Write down your goals, keep it in front of you, stay focused. And if it doesn't meet one of those goals for yourself, you have to be able to say no to it in your personal life or in work. Now, saying yes to certain things, especially when I started the role, I was saying yes to everything. Oh, you want to do this? Yes. You want to do that? Yes. You want to collaborate? Yes. You want to volunteer here? Yes, 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 yes. Then I realized, like, holy cow, I have way too much going on, which was the problem why I was working so much. Now I'll say yes, but I'll ask for a time frame when it's needed, when we want to work on that. And then I weigh it against everything else I have on my plate, or I say no and just say, I'm sorry, I'm at capacity. If you want to come back to me in XYZ time frame, I'm happy to collaborate with you, or let's have one meeting and I can, give you like a 60-second, here's all my thoughts on it, but I can't take it on as a project that might be 6 months out or a year out, so it's being honest and being okay to say, I'm at capacity. I am so transparent now in my personal life that I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have capacity, mental capacity, physical capacity. I don't, who benefits from being burnt out? I don't, no one around me does, like you mentioned. I also suffer from the resting bitch face. I try not to, I try to smile like a fool every once in a while, make people feel comfortable. I'm like, all the time. But, being snappy in your relationship, being snappy in the office, and snappy for me is like just aggressive. You just are irritated, but you feel irritated and people feel that you're irritated. And that's when you need to take a step back.
And that's not good leadership.
It's not good leadership at all, because you're unapproachable. And the leader I want to be is an approachable leader. And as a person who wants that tension all the time, because then it's impacting your personal relationships. I'm irritated that my kid is making a mess. She's a toddler, like 2 years old, terrible twos. I can't get upset that she's terrible, because that's what she knows, right? But it's being able to turn off the 5 o'clock and turn on my second job, and not feeling like, oh man, now I got to do my second job, and having that mentality that you have when you don't want to go to work and you don't want to, do it's not healthy. So we talk through work-life balance. We talk through, the power of saying no. Again, yes, when it's strategic. And what does strategy look like when you say yes in your role, BK? And you're being strategic. What does that look like? Like, how do we help people with being balanced in the yes and the no?
I think it really depends on your particular role. I'll speak for me, and then I'll give a little bit of a generalization. In my role, a lot of times what comes with that is I have competing priorities, right? I have stuff that needs to get done right away. I have a client that is like, going crazy. I've got, 10 different fires that I'm putting out. And so, yes, for me is really ranking them. I mean, and it's a good thing that I have a little bit of autonomy in terms of how I prioritize. I have a lot of, my employers, thank God, have a lot of confidence in that I'm making the best decision for the company. Meaning, if you have the autonomy to make decisions on your own without impacting other, things that's going on in the company, then it's just a matter of prioritizing and organizing yourself and making sure that you're putting the best decision for the company first, right? If you're somebody who is working under somebody and you're feeling like you have way too many balls, you're working at capacity, then this is a conversation for you and your supervisor to have. And I would say a lot of people think that they have to go in all, meek and, without solution to their supervisors. But I always tell my employees to come to me with the problem, and then come to me with 2 or 3 solutions. So if you're the kind of person where, you're having to answer up to somebody, then I would have the conversation of what should be priority. If you can't make the decision on your own, then asking your boss, which one of these, 3 or 4 things is the thing that needs to be done right away. And as Isabel mentioned in her last talk, just asking about time frames. Nothing keeps it. A boss wants you to ask intelligent questions that allows them to understand how your time is being managed. Because if you're saying that you're at capacity, then you kind of have to be able to express how and why these competing priorities are not going to get done if you try and do them all at once. So I would say, prioritizing whether you have the autonomy or not, if you're in a situation where, the decision is not yours, it's somebody else's, and it's really being able to express, why you're at capacity, what 3 or 4 things that you need to juggle around. Ask some really clarifying questions around time framing and priority and all that good stuff, and constant check-ins with your supervisor or boss, just so that they understand that, that you're not just trying to not do it, but you want to be the best.
I remember earlier this year, the beginning of the year, I had to say no to, I was leading my parent company's diversity and inclusion board. And it was just too much, because then I was leading my actual company's board, and there was just too much. Plus my 2 departments, there was just too much on my plate. And I had to take a step back, and I had to self-evaluate and say, what's something I could take off? And I had to say no to this group, even though I really enjoyed it and I wanted to do so much more impactful, change for the company, part of that group, but it was just too much. So I had to say no. I thanked everyone, and I had to take a step back. And it was a great decision, because it gave me so much more capacity. I took the steps to saying no. I told everyone, it was voluntary, but then I felt like I was failing by saying no. So sometimes it was just saying, sometimes you can't do everything. And I had to give myself a pep talk and say, to my boss and other people, like, I can't be a part of this and this and this and this. So I want to focus on these areas. So I'm taking this off my plate. And I was welcome with everyone from my direct employer, like, absolutely, we want you to be successful in your role, leadership that you're offering in this sector. So I was able to say no to the other piece of it. And it helped me with the work-life balance and how overwhelming I felt last year in that space. But now when I say strategy, sometimes I will say yes to something if it offers me more exposure or learning opportunities. So, if I have a little wiggle room, and I have, I always measure my capacity, or if I could push certain things off to say yes to something that will help me, with my career, I will say yes. Especially if I admire someone and I want to work with them because they're great and I learn a lot every time I work with them, or it's exposure to another department, another person, another industry, because we have so many different branches of business in my firm, so there's certain things I might say yes to, even if I'm capacity, because it's an opportunity that I don't want to, I don't want to miss. So that's some areas that I'll say yes to. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, and sometimes, saying no, I feel bad, like anyone else. It's like, oh man, what is this no going to?
I mean, but listen, you can't become the expert in your field by being, what is it? A jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Like, you become the best at, right. You become the expert when you're able to develop enough cachet with your company or within the industry of having been really great at something particular that people can actually depend on you for and come to you for, because they understand that you have a full grasp on it. If you're somebody that's going to get comfortable with, tossing a bunch of balls and not really figuring out how to strategically place yourself, then you're never going to be put in situations to lead projects. People aren't going to be able to see all of your assets because it's going to be spread out too thin. So that's some of the disadvantages of not prioritizing yourself, right? You can't be great when you're burnt out at both ends of the stick.
Burnout is real. Like, so if you say to yourself, I've never experienced burnout, then you are lying to yourself. As at some point or another, you are burning out. And burnout, just in case you're not sure what it is, it's tension that you're feeling, you're exhausted, you're not at your best, for a bunch of different reasons. We talked about ours. There are so many different reasons why you could be burnt out. And you have to figure out how to dig yourself out of that hole that you put yourself in, saying yes to everything, not focused on balance, not staying organized, not prioritizing, not communicating. Really important to do all of these things to avoid the burnout. But Sunday, we mentioned this in the last podcast, Monday morning blues, you're feeling like you don't want to talk to people. When you say, oh, I hate people, I don't want to deal with people. And, we've said that, we're like, I hate people, and that's when you're like, oh man, I'm reaching a point where I need to step back. We have accountability partnership, Brandy and I, we have an inner circle of individuals we keep around us when we're feeling burnt out. Make sure that you're talking to people, that you are keeping the line of communication open. Don't shut the door. You're working late, you have no balance, and then you're keeping yourself like in a little silo, not healthy. So if you take anything from this, is making sure that you're living your best life. We've talked about this before, and being healthy.
Well, so I just want to touch on really quickly, and because mental health is a huge thing. And I know that in some cultures, working hard and being stressed out and being in, burnt out situations is just part of what you should be doing in life. But when it's affecting your mental health, meaning that you find yourself spiraling into depression, and sometimes our job is not even the source of all of the depression and stress. It's just an aggravator of everything else that's going on around you. But we've seen a spike in individuals who, are dealing with some really, rough time in terms of mental health, from depression and anxiety. It's really, really, really real. So guard against that if you can. Nobody's feeling that.
You took us in a great direction. I'll also mention, just depending on the size of your company or your benefits, ask your employer if they offer employee assistance program, EAP. That's a program where they typically will offer you some mental health counseling for free from your employer, up to, I think it's like 5. I'm pretty sure every employer negotiates their contracts, but mine specifically offers 5 free anonymous discussions you can have on the call. Then they find a location for you. So make sure that you understand all of your benefits. Plus, depending on the state that you live in, the state also offers benefits. New York offers Family Medical Leave Act, which will allow you, they'll hold your job for a period of time. Some employers will pay you, some won't. But it's a placeholder while you seek the help that you need. So make sure you understand all the resources that are available to you. Brandy, thanks for bringing that up. I'll look it up.
That's really good.
I'll edit it into the YouTube video, because this is also available video conferencing if you want to see us on the video, and I'll share that there.
Nice. Don't burn out at both ends of the stick, people, for today.
Take one thing away and look at everything that you're doing, and what can you remove off your plate to give you some more free time. And if not, take off one day and do a mental health day, go to a spa, sleep in, depending on what your budget looks like.
Vacation, yeah.
Something for yourself. So the words of wisdom today is, don't burn out, and do something for yourself. Do something to reward yourself.
I like that.
Know that you're working really hard, and we believe in you. So thanks again for listening to this episode where we focused on knowing when you're burning out, and let's try to avoid it.
Yes.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe. Brandy likes saying smash
smash
the like button. Subscribe, depending on where you're listening or seeing us. Make sure you're checking in. MisfitsUnplugged.com, Misfits Unplugged on Instagram. We're dropping knowledge bombs on a daily basis. We're trying to build this community of misfits. We want you a part of it. Share us. We don't want to be your dirty little secret. We want to be a part of your little inner circle. So send that on over. We look forward to continuing to share and discuss and share. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.